Fab4 Expression presents the Unapologetically Reborn podcast hosted by Cody Fullin and Alicia Lynch. This podcast is meant to support awareness and reflection, but it is not a substitute for professional mental health care. If you need support, please reach out to a licensed professional or a trusted resource. A downloadable workbook can be found by visiting our website www.unapologeticallyreborn.com.
Welcome to Unapologetically Reborn. My name is Alicia Lynch.
I'm Cody. What's up?
So on today's episode, this is the second part to comparison. We're looking at how we compare each other. The majority of this is going to pertain to social media, which we ran out of time in our last episode. Some of you might get offended, especially if you're like an influencer or something. So I apologize in advance if this offends you.
Get over it.
Again, we're looking at social comparison theory. So social media really falls into this. So with that being said, let's look at this. All right, social media. Social media is a really neat way to keep in touch with people. However, it also has its drawbacks like everything else. Entertain me for a minute. Let's analyze why.
I complain too much on social media.
You think so? I think it's changed dramatically, such as, remember, like MySpace.
Yeah, I didn't complain as much, but by Facebook and Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it, bunch of complaining asses.
I thought MySpace was fun because you could do all these cool things on your page.
Yeah, but now look at it. There's 900 of them now.
Well, I don't feel like Facebook, for an example, I don't feel like it, it used to be like a cool way to keep up with people that you went to school with or used to work with or what have you.
Yeah.
It's definitely changed though.
Trauma-filled. No offense to Facebook.
Yeah, well, let's look at this. Social media platforms in particular have become potent amplifiers and distorters of the fundamental human tendency. They provide an unprecedented volume of information about others meticulously crafted and algorithmically amplified. That's always a hard word for me. Creating an environment where constant comparison is just...
Are you sure you weren't in the spelling bee? Because I would have asked you for that or a who. I have no clue what the hell you just said.
The algorithm.
Okay, thank God, because can I ask you, can I use it in a sentence? I would have been...
All right, well, social media, you're funny.
Jesus, this is why I said you're the smart one. I would have had...
No, but I feel like I'm a better writer than I'm a better speaker, and I apologize for that because I can speak off the top of my head with some things, but stuff like this, I'm not a psychologist, so like social comparison theory doesn't just flow off the top of my head, and I have to write about it. So I write myself notes, and... I
can read good, but I ain't reading all that. Oh, hell no. Hell no.
Anyways,
back to the topic.
Social media creates an environment where constant comparison is not just likely, but it's often inevitable. Consider the subtle yet powerful ways this plays out in daily life. Before the advent of social media, a woman might encounter a peer at a social gathering or a workplace event, okay? She might observe their demeanor, their attire, or perhaps hear about a recent success that the other woman had. These interactions, while opportunities for comparison, were typically interspersed with periods of social quietude. Her self-appraisal was grounded in a more immediate and less overwhelming context. Now, however, a simple scroll through social media feeds can present a woman with a seemingly endless stream of curated, highlighted reels from hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals. These digital encounters are often divorced from the messy realities of everyday life, presenting idealized versions of vacations, careers, relationships, and personal appearances. This constant influx of seemingly perfect lives creates a distorted landscape where our own ordinary experiences can feel profoundly inadequate by comparison. This is where we start to get dangerous. The core principle of social comparison theory, that we evaluate ourselves by looking at others, remains unchanged. What's dramatically transformed is the nature of what others are looking at. And at that stage upon which these comparisons take place, the digital realm has weaponized comparison, transforming it from a nuisanced evaluative tool into a potentially relentless source of self-doubt and insecurity, particularly for women, who are often socialized to be highly attuned to social dynamics and external validation. In upward comparison, we compare ourselves to individuals who appear to be superior in some way, perhaps more successful, more attractive, or more accomplished.
Shit. By reading, you're more superior than me.
Oh, stop.
Damn.
No.
No, there's a, yeah.
I'm a better writer than I am
I can
talker.
read. I can read very well, and I can talk all right, but not that. I'm like, I'm trying to pay attention to the clock and pay attention to what you're saying, and I'm like, it sounds like damn Charlie Brown.
Oh. Great, because that makes me feel like I need to redo this if I'm not making sense.
No, you're making sense. I love it. I'm learning. Big words confuse me.
All right, well, you chime in at any point. Anything that you want to ask, you just let me know.
I am learning as much as the next person.
All right. Well, in upward comparison, we compare ourselves to individuals who appear to be superior in some way. Like I said, more successful, more attractive, or more accomplished. This can serve as a powerful motivator, inspiring us to strive for more. For an example, the athlete who watches a fellow competitor achieve a personal best might be driven to train harder. Conversely, upward comparison can also be a source of significant distress, fostering feelings of inadequacy, envy, and a sense of falling short, particularly if the perceived gap seems insurmountable. On the other hand, with downward comparison, we're looking at individuals who are perceived as being in a less advantageous position. This form of comparison can provide a temporary boost to self-esteem, allowing us to feel better about our own circumstances by comparison. For example, hearing about someone else's struggles might make us feel more grateful for our own stability. The sheer volume and accessibility of this information are critical factors. As I stated before, social comparisons were typically made with a more limited and tangible social circle, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your neighbors. The interactions were often face-to-face, providing a richer, more nuanced context. Now, the individuals were all exposed to a constant stream of information about a vast network of acquaintances, celebrities, and even strangers. This relentless exposure can lead to a perpetual state of comparison where one's own life is constantly being measured against a highly skewed and often unattainable standard. The careful selected vacation photos, the flawless selfies, the celebrity announcements or career milestones. These are presented without the accompanying narrative of the effort, the compromises, or the inevitable setbacks that often accompany such achievements like we talked about last week. We don't know what's behind the photo or what the person went through to achieve what they had.
God, this chair's
Are you okay?
Yes.
Okay. If you remember, we chatted about what we didn't see behind the scenes, because most of the time the trials, the tribulations, and the struggles are not posted. The constant exposure to idealized portrayals can significantly impact self-perception, particularly for women. Societal pressure often places a strong emphasis on appearance, social success, and relational harmony, making women more particularly susceptible to the comparative pressure amplified by social media. The visual nature of many platforms further exacerbates this, placing immense focus on physical appearance and lifestyle displays. What is vital to note here is that what is presented online is not a true reflection of lived reality, but a careful, constructed performance. If we forget, majority of what you see is orchestrated. The disconnect between the curated digital world and one's own lived experience begins to foster feelings of inadequacy, envy, and dissatisfaction. It can create a sense that everyone else is living a more fulfilling, beautiful, or successful life, leading to a detrimental cycle of upward comparison that can begin to erode self-esteem. Understanding social comparison theory, therefore, is not just about recognizing a psychological concept. It's about understanding a fundamental mechanism that has been supercharged and distorted to the digital age, creating unique challenges for individuals, especially women, in their quest for self-acceptance and authentic connection. This curated content is then propelled into our digital feeds by sophisticated algorithms. These algorithms are engineered to maximize user engagement. One of the most effective ways to achieve this is by serving content that is likely to provoke a reaction, whether that reaction is admiration, envy, or a desire to emulate. For many platforms, this translates to prioritizing content that showcases aspirational lifestyles, striking physical appearances, and significant achievements. The result is a constant barrage of idealized imagery and narratives that are specifically calibrated to encourage upward comparison. So here we are presented with a seemingly endless stream of individuals who appear to be happier, more attractive, more successful, and more fulfilled than we are. This algorithmic amplification creates an environment where it is exceedingly difficult to escape the pervasive narrative of others' perceived superiority. The platforms are in essence designed to make us feel like we're falling short. The sheer volume of information that bombards users on a daily basis is another critical factor in the amplification of social comparison. Unlike the more contained social interaction of the pre-digital era, social media offers an almost infinite scroll of content. Every scroll, every click, every moment spent on these platforms presents a new opportunity to measure ourselves against an ever-expanding and increasingly unattainable benchmark. This perpetual exposure can lead to a sense of being constantly on display and perpetually evaluated, even when we are not actively seeking out such comparisons. The digital world has, in effect, created a ubiquitous performance space where self-worth can become intricately linked to perceived social standing online. The visual emphasis of platform are particularly potent in exasperating these comparative pressures, especially for women. These platforms have become global stages for the display of physical appearance and lifestyle. The pressure to conform to often unrealistic beauty standards is immense. Influencers and celebrities whose careers are frequently built on their curated images set a benchmark that is both aspirational and for many unattainable. The use of filters, editing tools, and strategic posing further blurs the lines between reality and idealized representation. This constant visual bombardment can lead to a heightened body dissatisfaction, increased self-consciousness, and a relentless pursuit of physical perfection that's often exhausting and ultimately unfulfilling. The emphasis extends beyond mere physical appearance to encompass a broader spectrum of perceived success, the social media lifestyle, filled with exotic travel, designer goods, perfect relationships, and enviable careers. Because a widely shared aspiration, it becomes a widely shared aspiration between everybody. The display of these markers of success serves as a constant reminder of what others appear to have achieved, fostering a sense of inadequacy in those who do not feel that they measure up. This is not to say that these platforms do not offer positive aspects, such as community building, creative expression, but the underlying architecture and algorithmic priorities steer users towards comparative loops that can be detrimental to people's self-esteem. The design of these platforms encourages a form of competitive visibility. Users are incentivized to present their lives in the most appealing way possible, not just to share, but to be seen as successful, happy, and desirable. This creates a dynamic where authenticity can be sacrificed for the sake of curated perfection. The pursuit of likes, comments, and followers becomes a proxy for social validation. These metrics are often interpreted as indicators of one's worth and social standing. This can lead to an obsessive focus on external validation, diverting attention away from intrinsic sources of self-worth. The continuous feedback loop of posting, waiting for engagement, and interpreting that engagement can become a powerful driver of behavior, shaping how individuals perceive themselves and their lives. The more one engages with these platforms, the more one is exposed to the curated realities of others, thus perpetuating the cycle of social comparison. This particularly is true for younger generations who have grown up immersed in this digital landscape, where the lines between online persona and real-life identity can become increasingly blurred. The constant negotiation of one's online presence in relation to the seemingly more successful or appealing presence of others becomes a significant aspect of their social and psychological development. The platform, by design, encourages us to perform our lives, and in doing so, makes us more susceptible to measuring our performance against others. This creates a subtle but profound pressure to constantly optimize, constantly present a version of ourselves that is palatable and admired, often at the expense of genuine self-expression and and acceptance. The implications of this amplified gaze extend beyond individual feelings of inadequacy. Social media's constant emphasis on comparison can also contribute to a broader societal pressure to conform to certain ideals, whether they relate to physical appearance, lifestyle choice, or even emotional suppression. The curated perfection seen online can set unrealistic expectations for relationships, careers, personal happiness, leading to widespread dissatisfaction and a sense of never quite measuring up. The algorithms, by prioritizing content that garner high engagement, can inadvertently create echo chambers that reinforce these idealized narratives, making it even harder to encounter diverse and realistic portrayals of life. This creates a distorted reality where the exceptional is presented as the norm and the ordinary is rendered invisible. The very tools that promise connection can, in this context, become instruments of isolation as individuals feel increasingly alone in their struggles when surrounded by seemingly perfect digital lives. The subtle yet pervasive influence of these platforms on our self-perception and our understanding of social norms cannot be overstated. They have fundamentally altered the landscape of self-evaluation, transforming an intrinsic human tendency into a potentially relentless and damaging cycle. The digital age, with its omnipresent screens and curated realities, has undeniably reshaped the landscape of female relationships. The digital realm further exacerbates this phenomenon by removing the buffer of physical presence and nuanced social cues. A curt online comment, a seemingly dismissive emoji, or even the absence of a response can be amplified and imbued with negative intent, reinforcing feelings of being undervalued or ignored. Conversely, a woman who projects an image of an unwavering confidence and success online can become a potent symbol of what others feel that they lack. Her posts about career milestones, lavish vacations, or seemingly perfect relationships can serve as a constant reminder of perceived personal shortcomings. This creates a peculiar dynamic where women who might have been allies or peers in a less mediated environment can become distant figures perceived as embodying an unattainable ideal that triggers feelings of inadequacy. This intimidation is not simply a matter of envy, though envy can certainly be a component. Envy in its most basic form is a desire for what another person has. Intimidation, however, often involves a more profound sense of personal deficit. It's not just wanting someone else's success, but feeling that their success somehow diminishes one's own worth or potential. This feeling can be particularly acute when the perceived differences lie in the areas that are deeply tied to self-esteem, such as intelligence, creativity, physical appearance, or social influence. The internal narrative becomes less about, I wish I had that, and more about, they have that, therefore I am lacking. This shift in focus from external possession to internal deficiency is what makes the intimidation factor so psychologically impactful. So again, let's look at reels. This term, coined to describe the selective presentation of one's best moments, has become a shorthand for the curated online experience. This deliberate filtering of experience is not merely a matter of personal preference. It's a deeply ingrained social practice amplified by the digital medium. The very act of choosing what to share, what to withhold, is an exercise in self-branding. For many, especially women, this self-branding is increasingly linked to maintaining a positive social image. The fear of appearing vulnerable or admitting to failure or of showcasing the mundane aspects of existence can be powerful motivators. In a world where external validation often comes in the form of likes, comments, shares, presenting a flawless facade becomes a strategic imperative for garnering that validation. This can lead to a constant performance, a perpetual need to keep up appearances, even when the underlying reality is far from aspirational. The psychological impact of consuming these curated realities is profound and multifaceted. When we're repeatedly exposed to these idealized portrayals, our own lived experiences can begin to feel deficient by comparison. Our ordinary Tuesday afternoons filled with work, chores, can seem dull and unfulfilling. When contrasted with the seemingly endless stream of exotic travel, lavish celebration, and effortless achievement that populate our feeds, this constant exposure to an aspirational benchmark, one that is often unattainable and frequently manufactured, can foster a persistent sense of inadequacy. The internal monologue shifts from appreciation of others' joy to a critical assessment of one's own perceived shortcomings. Why isn't my life this exciting? Why don't I look like that? These are common refrains that emerge from this constant, often unconscious comparison. This disconnect between online portrayal and lived reality creates a distorted perception of what is normal and what is achievable. The struggles that are inherent to the human experience, heartbreak, job loss, financial worries, mental health challenges, the simple drudgery of daily life, these are often systematically erased from the digital narrative. When these challenges are absent from our digital consumption, it can feel as though we are the only ones experiencing them. This isolation, born from the illusion of universal happiness and success, can be profoundly damaging. It can exacerbate feelings of loneliness, anxiety, and depression. As individuals internalize the belief that their own difficulties are unique aberrations rather than shared aspects of our human condition. Furthermore, the emphasis on visual platforms means that appearance often takes center stage. The carefully posed selfies, the flattering filters, the professional lighting, all contribute to an idealized image that can set unrealistic beauty standards. Young women in particular are vulnerable to internalizing these unattainable ideals. The constant bombardment of seemingly flawless faces and bodies can lead to body dissatisfaction, disordered eating patterns, and a diminished sense of self-worth that is tied to physical appearance. The pressure to conform to these digitally enhanced standards can be immense, leading to a relentless pursuit of a perceived ideal that is often artificial and ultimately unattainable and unsustainable at that. Although social media can be fun, it can also turn into an extremely negative place if we let it. We have to remember these things when we're scrolling. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to seeing you on the next. I hope some of this helps put some of this in perspective. What are your thoughts?
Fine, and social media, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing.
Where are we for time?
We're good for another 3 minutes.
I'd really like to know your thoughts.
Yes.
On our series. We're going to continue a couple more episodes on, why women are mean to other women, hurt other women, compete with other men and women, this kind of thing. But I'd really like to know your thoughts. So please email me. Email us. listen@unapologeticallyreborn.com. As I told you before, this has fascinated me so much. It's going to be my next book. I really am diving into this pretty hardcore. So I'll let you know the progress with that. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Unapologetically Reborn. This is where survival ends and choices begin.
Goodbye.
You took a picture.